If you're looking for a starter guide to using JetWooBuilder from Crocoblock, then this video should be right up your street. I'll show you the basics of the key features, and by the time you've gone through each of the sections, you should have a solid understanding of the core concepts and features needed to build your own custom WooCommerce store. As always, there will be full timestamps for each of the sections in the description below and links to everything that I cover. Okay, if you're ready, let's get started by taking a look at what we'll be working on and then what tools we'll be using to get everything up and running. A quick disclaimer before we do though. This tutorial does assume you are familiar with the basics of WordPress, WooCommerce and Elementor. If that isn't the case, I would suggest taking a look at some of the beginner's guides on the channel to get you up to speed, and then you can come back to this tutorial and really get stuck in. Okay, so let's just take a look now at the key pages that we're going to be building throughout this tutorial. We'll be creating a custom homepage where we can jump through to the various different sections. All this is fully customized. Going to take us through to custom archive pages to display filtered records. You can see we have a custom browse our latest additions, which will show the latest products added. If we run through to a different section, you can see we have a custom template inside here with filters down the side. We can take a look at a product, and we've customized this section as well, including the related products layout. We've also got a customized cart and checkout pages. So we can customize all of these different elements. There are several basic things I want to cover before we start building, as these are pretty important to this whole tutorial. As always, if you want to skip past these and get straight into the first part building the site, you can use the timestamps in the description to jump around as and when you need to. So let's kick things off with a quick look at the plugins we'll be using in today's video. First off, we have Elementor, the free version. We do not need Pro installed to be able to do any of this. So I'm not installing Pro, just go with the free version. Jet Search and JetSmartFilters. This just gives us the ability to enhance our JetWooBuilder store by including filters, searches, and so on. It's just a much better way, especially if you have a larger store. Obviously, you don't have to use these to get your store up and running, so we'll only briefly cover those to show you how you can integrate them into the design. Then we have JetWooBuilder for Elementor, which is the core of this entire tutorial, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And finally, we have to have WooCommerce installed because, well, it is a WooCommerce based plugin and tutorial. Next up, we've got the JetWooBuilder settings. To get those, we come to Crocoblock and we come into Jet Plugin Settings. Inside there, once you've got JetWooBuilder installed, we'll have a new entry. We can select that. And inside there, we've got the general settings, which is where we've got some basic options we can configure, like the thumbnail effects and so on. We're going to leave those as they are for now. I'm going to go to widgets. And inside there are all the different widgets we can choose to enable or disable inside the Elementor editor. I'm going to leave everything set up inside here, but if there are certain features you're not going to use, it makes sense to just disable those just to streamline the actual Elementor editor interface a little bit. So we're going to leave those set as they are there. We are going to go back to the general settings and we're going to enable WooCommerce page template styles. Once we've done that, we are good to go. Now, the final thing I want to show you is something we're going to be going back to a lot throughout this tutorial. So I just want to give you a quick overview of what it is and why it's so important to the whole process of using JetWooBuilder to build your WooCommerce stores. We're going to go to WooCommerce and into settings. And you can see we've got a tab at the end called JetWooBuilder. If we enable that, you can see this now has a lot of different options. And this is where we can tell WooCommerce and WordPress what templates to use if we want to override those default WooCommerce templates. So for example, if we create in an archive category, by default, it will fall back and only use the standard WooCommerce template for that. However, if we want to change it, we can enable it and we can choose the template we want to use after we've created it. So we will be coming back and forth to this section a heck of a lot throughout this tutorial. An e-commerce website's homepage is probably one of the most important sections, and JetWooBuilder gives us loads of great tools to be able to build it in almost endless fashion. Now, while I keep this section pretty straightforward, it should give you a solid insight into just how easy it is to build something truly unique for yourself. So let's just take a quick look at what we're starting off with. So this is the homepage, and as you can see, other than a header and footer, there's nothing on there. If we go to the shop page, you'll see we have just the default WooCommerce setup. Nothing custom in there whatsoever, other than maybe some of the colors which we've set up as part of Elementor theme styles. My account, it's just the standard My Account page and so on. Same goes for the cart, Same goes for the checkout. They're all standard. We've done nothing to them. So now that we've seen what we're starting with, let's start building out the key things that we need to work with. So we're going to start with the home page first of all. Now the reason we're going to start with the home page is because this allows me to show you and ease you into how we can use various different widgets before we move on to creating templates. As I said, if this isn't something that interests you, then there are full timestamps in the section below so you can jump around to whichever part you want. However, if you're interested in finding out how to create a more customized homepage, stick around because I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so let's just come into our pages and add a new page in. From there, we're just going to bypass this and we're just going to give this a title of homepage. We'll publish this and we'll have a basic blank page ready for us. So let's edit with Elementor and then we can start building the things that we wanted. So the first thing you want to do is get rid of this annoying title that we have at the top, and that's easy to do. We come to the settings in the bottom left and we just say hide the title, and that's now gone. Let's add in a new single row column section, and we're going to kind of put a nice big header section in here with a lot of color just to really draw your attention to everything that's going on. So the first thing we want to do is select this and we're going to come into our style section. We're going to add our image in. Choose background and we're going to come into classic, and from there we're going to choose our image. Now I've already uploaded some images, but obviously you'd have different ones for your website. So we're going to choose this nice bright yellow image and insert that into our page. Okay, so that's put that inside there. We now need to just configure this. So we're going to come over to the style tab, making sure then that we've got the background option open, and we're going to set this to be center center. We're going to set attachment, we leave that as default. Repeat, we don't want any repeat on here, and we're going to set this to be cover. Okay, so you can see we're still not really seeing much going on there. So what we need to do is come back to layout, and from layout we can set a minimum height and we can adjust that, and we're going to set this to 800 pixels. And there we go. We now have a much larger image. And finally, I want to give this a bit more interest at the bottom of the image. So we're going to come to style, down to shape divider and set that to be the bottom. And then we're going to change this over and we're going to just choose pyramids. That just kind of gives it a bit more interest. And obviously, if you want to adjust this, you can easily adjust it. So for example, I might think the 800 is a little too big, while I can easily adjust that to taste. So we'll leave it a set somewhere around there. Okay, so that's our header section in place. The next thing I want to do is put another section that allows people to jump to the various different categories that we have as part of our store, or at least some of those categories. This is really easy to do now with JetWooCommerce, or JetWooBuilder I should say. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to go and do a search for taxonomy. And you can see we have a widget called taxonomy tiles. Drag that onto our page, and this gives us the ability now to control exactly what goes on there. So I'm going to select this section, add a bit of space inside there. We're going to set 50 pixels top and bottom, and now we can set this up. So we've got a range of options for layout. We can see I can edit and change these and get exactly what I want, the layout style that I kind of fancy. So I'm going to go for this particular layout. Now you can see we've got some blank entries inside there, and it doesn't really look that good at the moment. So we can configure all of this. We have lots and lots of different options. We're going to set the height on this because at the moment it looks a little small. So I'm going to increase that, and as you can see as I do, we now get a much nicer looking layout. So we're going to set that to somewhere around 500, and we can see we can adjust the size of the main box. So if we want that to be your key focus category inside your store, you could do that by adjusting this very easily. I'm going to set that back to about 50, and then we can see we have the option to say, what do we want to show? Do you want to show categories or tags? Up to you. You could create a tag and you could set that to be featured category, and then you could use that to filter things and show only those inside here. There's lots of different ways in which you could utilize this particular widget. We're going to say hide empty, so we don't have any empty categories, which would look a little bit odd. We're going to say hide uncategorized, and you can see we've got show by ID. So if I wanted to exclude specific taxonomies or specific tags and so on, I could do that inside here. I'm going to leave it as it is for now, just so it's quick and easy, but you can obviously get stuck into this and have a play about yourself. We're going to disable the count because I don't want to see that on there. And then you can see we can adjust things like the title max width, description length, and so on if we're using those. If we jump to the Styles tab, we can now configure the look and feel of all of this. So let's adjust the gap in between. We'll set that to somewhere around 10. We can apply a border if you want to, border radiuses. You can get as creative as you want inside here. What I'm going to do now is set the vertical alignment to bottom, so that will push the text down to the bottom. And then if I want to, I can adjust all those kinds of options. Now at the moment this looks okay, but the text doesn't really stand out, and there's a few issues we need to rectify. Very easy to do that. We've got the options for the box overlay. We're going to set a box overlay on this. We're going to just change this and we're going to choose a color. Now you can still use global colors. That's part of the theme styles that you can build as part of Elementor Free and Pro. So you can choose this and we can just pull in any colors from there. So I'm going to set this for the background color, and you can see that makes it totally dark and you can't see a single thing. So we can come back in and we can adjust the opacity of that to get that to whatever kind of setting that we want. That looks pretty good. It gives us some separation now. Okay, we can adjust this then on the background as well. So on the hover effect, we can come in and we can select that same color and we can just make it a little darker. So let's choose that global footer background color and just adjust the opacity on there. And now you can see when we mouse over, we get a slight darkening effect. Obviously you could go the opposite way. You could make it totally light if you wanted to. Entirely up to you how you want to configure this. So I'm going to set that back there. That looks pretty good. Okay. Come back to this area and we'll adjust that a little bit more, make it a little less transparent. There we go. Okay, so that's setting up those colors. We still now need to address the text. As you can see, still doesn't stand out very well. To do that, we simply come down to the content area, and inside there we now have full control of the text, the typography, colors, all those kinds of things. So what we're going to do is, you can see we can scroll down until we find description, and we've got product count, and we've got title and so on. So title is what we want to focus on right now. We'll set our color inside there. We'll set that to be white. And you see that now immediately shows. We can change our typography, and again, we can reference any of those global options. We can say we'll set this to be primary. So that'll put in the primary font styling, but we'll make that a little larger. So we'll say we will bump that up to something like 28, actually maybe 26, around there. 24 looks good. And if you want to adjust the spacing of the letters or the weight of the actual text itself, you can do all that. So you can see now we have a nice way of seeing various different categories as part of our site. So our homepage is getting somewhere now. So next up, I want to put a new section in that's going to show the latest additions to our store. A great way of promoting the new things that you add. But you can get as creative as you want with this. You can set up queries. You can filter things however you want. There's a lot of options available. First thing we're going to do is come back to our widgets, and we're going to drop a heading section inside here. And we're just going to give this the title of Browse Our Latest Additions. We'll set our font styling on there, and we'll just say we want this to be global typography. We'll set that to our primary, and we'll choose our color, set as primary as well. And again, if you want to, you can adjust the size of this to taste. We'll set that to about 28, and we'll adjust the weight on there, make it just a little bit finer. There we go. So now we want to show our product grid. So what we're going to do is come back to our widgets and do a search for product, and we have product list and product grid. We're going to choose the product grid for this example. We're going to drop that underneath our title, and you can see that now just pulls in a range of different design options. Now we have full control over how this looks, and we can even customize the template that will be used for each of these different sections. So that's pretty cool. We can get as creative as we want. Now in this video, I'm not going to get into every single aspect of JetWooBuilder because there are huge amounts. But if you'd like to see a more advanced tutorial after you've seen something like this, let me know in the comment section below. And if enough people are interested in a more advanced tutorial, I'll be happy to take a look at creating something for that. But like I say, let's just take a look now how we can start to customize the aspects of this. So we choose this. On the left-hand side, we have lots of different options. We have different presets we can use. So we can pull in different preset layouts if we want to. And you can see they adjust various different things, but we have full control over this ourselves if we want to. We can change the number of columns. So we'll set this to 4, which is what we're going to use as part of the site layout. And you can see then we can control various different things. So equal column heights and so on. So we're going to set a few of these up. And again, it's worthwhile taking your time to experiment with these to see exactly what they look like and get the results that you want. Product number 3, we're going to set this to be 8. I want to show 8 of our most recent products on there. And then we have the query option. So if you want to, you can query this by lots of different things. So featured, sale, category, specific IDs, and so on. So there's various different ways you can use this widget in different parts of your site. You could have a recently viewed section in your footer or on the right or left-hand columns. You could have specific categories, tags, sale items, and so on. So you can get as creative as you want with this particular widget. Then you can exclude products by ID. And again, this is just another way of filtering data and excluding things that you don't want as part of this particular section on your site. We've got ordering options, and we've got the order itself, descending or ascending. So order by date, that's what we want to use on here, because this is going to be our recent products, and you can set descending or ascending depending upon what you want. Now then, let's just tidy up what we have, because at the moment it just looks a little bit of a mishmash. So we need to just refine this a little better. If we scroll down, we can now start to look at the things we can enable and disable. So your things like product status, your stock status, and so on, if you're managing stock. Product excerpts, so we don't want that on this. We're going to take that off. You can see we've got categories and so on. So we disable the categories, disable the tags. We just want to show the actual name of the item and the price. Disable any add to cart options as well. If you wanted to, you could set this as a carousel, and if you chose a carousel, you'd have different options there to configure that how you want. Okay, so now I've got the information that I want on there. I just now need to refine the styling of this, because the text doesn't look particularly good and in keeping with the style that we have. Let's switch to the Style tab, and now we can configure all of the different aspects. Now obviously if we're not using something, styling it is kind of a moot point. There's no point in doing it. But you can do things like your product item, your thumbnail, your title, and so on. So let's just choose our title, and we can then style that to make sure that is in keeping with our color scheme and so on. To typography, we're going to change that, and you can change it on an individual basis, or you can use your custom option. So we're going to set this to be primary again. See, that now picks up our styling. We're going to change our color, and we're going to use our global colors on there as well. So we're going to just choose this primary option, which gives this dark blue. We can then come down to our price, which is the only other item that we have on here, and we can do exactly the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that typography using our global option. We'll set that to be secondary. We'll adjust the size on this as well to make it a little smaller, because it's picking up the default value, which is 14. We'll set that to 12 in this example, and you can also do anything else you want. If you have regular and sale items, you can control those independently of each other, so it's very easy to see how this is done. Text decoration for your regular, your sale, all those kinds of things. So you can see underline if you want to, you can have nothing on there, or we can stick with the line through option. If you want to change the colors, you can do that as well. So you could change with your global colors or an individual color. So you can go through and you can style this exactly how you want. One other thing I want to do is, at the moment, I want to bring this price and just bring it a little closer to the name of the product itself. So we've got our margin option, so I can unlink that. And what I can do now is I can adjust the top on this. We'll start off with a value of -20, and that looks a little bit tight. So what we'll do is we'll just drop that down to about 15. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Now you can spend as much time as you wanted to working through this, styling it, adding all different options like your latest editions, on sale items, featured items, whatever you wanted to your homepage to get as creative as you want. For this example, I'm going to leave this here. We'll hit update, and then we just need to assign this now to be the homepage of WordPress. Let's come out of the dashboard. From there, we're going to go back to the WordPress dashboard, and we're going to come to settings, and we're going to come into reading. And from there, we're going to set a static page, choose our home page, and set that to be the page we just created. We'll hit save changes, and we can now take a look at this in action and see the difference we have on our home page. Come back to our test site, go back to our home page, and we now have something that looks infinitely nicer looking than what we started off with. Like I say, this is just a starting point, and you can get as creative, add as much as you want to these kinds of layout styles to make it a really useful homepage. Okay, so let's take a little look now feature-wise. So we've got this section at the top, which is to browse the categories, and then we've got the products underneath. So let's start off by browsing the categories. If we click on clothing, for example, that takes us into what is now just the standard WordPress and WooCommerce layout for that particular type of archive. You can see none of the styling that we may have set up, none of that has actually carried over. So we need to deal with that. Come back, and if we take a look at our products, for example, we'll take this t-shirt as an example. You can see again, this is just using the default layout for all the different aspects for an individual product. So we've got all those things to deal with, but we've now done the homepage, and hopefully that's given you an insight into how easy it is and how you can get so much more creative using the JetWoo plugin. So next up, we'll tackle the shop page. Again, you could get as creative as you like here, but what I'll demonstrate is how to start building the archive template, and then you can easily expand upon the skills and tools covered to build multiple different layouts for various parts of your website if you so choose. So to start building your archive pages, we need to go to the Crocoblock options and down to Woo Page Builder. And this is where we can start to build the templates, the various different templates, and assign those then through the different settings that we have. So let's create our new template. We're going to choose the type of template. We're going to set that to be shop. And then we're going to give this a name. So we're just going to call this default shop template. Underneath, you can see we've got some predefined template layouts we can start from. And if you want to, you can start from these, or you could create a blank one and start from scratch. Let's keep this really simple to start off with and say we're going to just choose one of these options. So we'll say we'll take this first option and we'll create our template from that. Once that's loaded into Elementor, all of our template files will be loaded in, and now we can start to customize things if we want to. So now our page, our template, has various different component parts to it. You can see we've got some pre-built filters down the left-hand side, some sorting options at the top, and then we've got the widget to show our actual products. If we click on there, you can see we have no real options available. No styling options, no content options. The thing we can do is choose the option for enable the layout switcher. We're going to do that in a moment. Now the layout switcher will allow us to easily choose between two different layouts, and we're going to choose to have a listing layout, and we're going to choose to have a grid layout. But let's just take a quick look at what we have to start off with. We've got a section at the top, you've got your page title, and everything else is kind of predefined for us. So let's just say, okay, we're happy to use that to start off with. We'll hit publish on there, and we've just got our template set up. Now, before we start customizing this, let me just show you how we go about setting this up as our shop page. If we come back to our test site and refresh our default shop page, you can see it's still using that predefined WooCommerce template. What we need to do is come out of this and go back to our dashboard. We're going to come into our WooCommerce settings. And like I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial, we've got the JetWooBuilder option. And this is where we can set things up. So you can see at the moment, shop page is using the default layout. We haven't overridden that. Let's choose enable custom shop option. Drop this down and you can see the template that fits into that is the default shop template. We'll choose that option and we'll just simply come down to the bottom and we'll just choose to save those changes. Now if we go back to our test page and refresh this, we now have that template we've just created. We have no real control over it, but you can see there's the filters down the left hand side. There's our sorting options. We can say we want to sort this by high price to low price to high price, whatever you kind of want. Then we've got some filters for colors and sizes and so on. Now, if you're happy with that layout, you could just carry on creating your templates using all these default settings. But that kind of defeats what we can do with JetWooBuilder. Let's come back into our dashboard and go back into our templates. So we'll go back to our Woo Page Builder and we're going to open up that template we've just created and we're going to set that to have a switcher in place. Okay, we'll just choose this entire section and we're going to choose this widget and we're going to enable the layout switches. We're going to select that and you can see this now opens up the switcher options that allows us to switch between a primary and a kind of secondary layout. Normally that'll be like a grid layout and a list layout, and that's what we're going to do. So what we have is we have to select the templates we want for each of these different layers. Now currently we have no templates created, so we have no real control over what's going to be done inside there. Let's rectify that. Let's update this, come back out to our dashboard, and we're going to go back to our Woo Page Builder and we're going to create our first template. So add a new template. We're going to set this up to be an archive, and from there we're just going to call this shop archive and we'll put in brackets grid and close the brackets so we'll know which one this is. I'm going to copy that so I can just paste that in for the next one. So you can choose any of these predefined layouts if you want to, or again, you could start from scratch. So we'll say we'll choose this option. We'll create our template. And what this is going to do now is it's going to show us what one particular product would look like. We're not editing the entire grid. We're editing the style for this particular product that will be put into a grid afterwards. Hope that makes sense anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the things that we don't want. So I don't really want this, so I'm going to delete that from there. I don't really need to have what type of product it is, so I can delete that from there. And we've got these other options. Now, anything's grayed out like this when it comes to the JetWooBuilder, it's primarily because there's no information to currently display inside there. So because we have no ratings applied to this particular product, no ratings are going to show up. Same goes for tags. If we had tags applied to them, they would show up. For this example, I don't want those, so I'm going to simply delete those from our design. Now I can go ahead and quickly style various elements on here. So I'm going to do that so you don't have to watch me, and then we'll carry on. Okay, so I've applied some basic styling to this. We'll click on Publish. And once that's published, we can now basically replicate this using the list layout. Let's simply close this down and create our second template. So we'll exit to our dashboard, back to our WooCommerce page builder, and we're going to add a new one in. So this is going to be our shop archive, and this is going to be list. And we'll simply change that to archive. Okay, so we'll do the same thing again, only we'll choose the different layout. This time we're going to choose this option. So we'll select that, create our template. That will then create the template based upon those options. You can see same kind of thing again. So I'm going to quickly go through, adjust the styling on here, get rid of any things that I don't want, and then we'll take a look at the next stage. Okay, so there's the basic styling done. There's one important thing we need to do for this list item. I'm going to come down to the settings in the bottom left-hand corner, and we're going to do is open up the template settings. And from there, we're going to say use custom columns count. And from there, we're going to set this custom columns to 1. You can adjust any horizontal gaps or vertical gaps if you want to, but this is going to stop it from being overridden and creating multiple columns. So now that I've done that, I'm going to hit publish, and that's our second template created. So now we can switch back to our original template for our shop page, and we can set this up. Let's go back into our Woo page builder, and from there we're going to open up our default shop template with Elementor. Now where we've got these switches, we're going to select this widget again, and we're going to select the templates we want to use for those switches. So you can see there's our shop archive grid and list. So our first one is going to be the grid option. So there's our grid layout, and then we're going to come down to the second template, and we're just simply going to choose the list option from there. We can also change the titles that are going to be used inside these switches. So main and secondary doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll just change this to grid, and we'll change the second one to list. And that makes a lot more sense. So now we've set those things up, and we can adjust anything else now on the site to make sure everything is laid out how we want it to be. Let's update the page, and let's just jump over into our test site. We'll refresh this, and you can see there's our listing. You can see there's our buttons at the top. We've got grid selected at the moment, and if we click on list, we'll switch over to the list view. But you may notice that things don't look quite right. This is not using the template that I set up. The buttons are different, the text is different, and the colors are different. Why is that? We jump back to the grid, and you can see there's the options we set up. We need to do a couple of other things. So we're going to go back over into our settings option inside WooCommerce. So exit to our dashboard, back into WooCommerce and into settings. Okay, so let's just jump over to the JetWooBuilder option. Now at the moment, the widget render method is set to macros. We're going to change that to Elementor default. We'll come down and we can save this out. So save our changes, come back in, refresh the page. You can see there's our first grid is looking fine. Switch to list view and things are working better. So now this is using the style that we set up. So there are a lot of options inside here for how you can set various different things up and how you can get things to work the way that you want to. So you need to take a little bit of time just to get accustomed to how all of this works, because you're going to be back and forth here quite a lot setting up various different things. So now that's all set up, the last thing I'm going to do is just change this header section to make it a little bit more in keeping to what we have. So we'll select that, we come over to our style, we'll change this background image and we'll find something that looks just a little bit better. So maybe we'll stick with our original image inside there. You can see we can add that in, and we can now just get this all set up the way that we want. Center, and we can make it a bit larger if we wanted to as well. So we'll say we want to set this of a minimum height, and we'll adjust that to taste. Okay, so somewhere around there, for example. Now we'll hit update on there, and we've now created our custom shop page. Now obviously there's still a heck of a lot you could do to this page to make it a lot more customized, a lot more professional. But this isn't so much about showing you how to make it look professional, more a case of showing you how you can take these tools and how you can utilize them to be able to create whatever you want using JetWooBuilder. Now the single product template is the key to showing your site visitors the product that they are interested in. And JetWooBuilder, you can go to town on the design and the information you want to include. Once again, this guide is more about showing you how to use the tools more than it is about making something truly unique and visually appealing. That, well, you can get stuck in and use these tools for yourself. Now, before we move on to creating the single product template, I want to show you something. Because we've set up an archive, that's now being used for pretty much everything on the site, and that can be okay. So let me just demonstrate what I'm talking about. We're currently looking at the home page of the site. So if we come into accessories, for example, you can see once we come into there, that's now using the template we've just set up for the default home page. You can see we're currently looking at specifically the accessories. Come back out of this and we're going to take a look at something like hoodies. You can see the same template is being used and being filtered for hoodies. Like I say, that is perfectly fine. If you didn't want that though, you can override that with custom templates for any different kind of section. So if we come back into the WooCommerce settings, you can see at the moment we've set enable custom archive, and that's going to use whatever the default we've set up. You can override that at any point by simply choosing any of the options you have from a template that's created under that specific template type. So archives, carts, single product, so on and so forth. Okay, I've headed back over down to my JetWooBuilder template section, and we're going to create a new template. Single is perfectly fine, and we're just going to call this default single product. You can see we've got a range of predefined layouts we can pick from, just as our starting point. So let's just choose something from there. This first one looks perfectly fine, so I'm going to select that option and create my template. This is then going to do the usual. It's going to load everything in for us. As you can see, we've got all the various different features you'd expect as part of a template, and we can delete anything we want from here. So you can see we've got related products underneath. We've got our tabs for descriptions, additional information, and reviews. So I'm going to just streamline this a little bit and tweak it just ever so slightly to fall in line with what we currently have. And there we go. I've now set everything up inside there the way that I want. And as you can see, we've got related products underneath. And you can use this, or you can use a range of other widgets. So let's come back to all the widgets we have available. And you can see at the moment, related products is there. And you can see we have options inside here for various different things. We can change this out and we can set in there single upsells if we wanted to. So we could then pick exactly what products we wanted to upsell, as opposed to the related products, which just looks at the tags and the category of particular products in. Up to you which way you want to go about doing it, and it's entirely configurable as well, which we will come back to in a moment. For now though, let's just say we're happy with this. We'll hit publish, and that's created the layout for our single template. What we need to do now, like we've seen before, is to assign this. So we'll come back out of our dashboard, back into WooCommerce under settings, and under JetWooBuilder, we just need to enable the custom single product template and choose which product template we want. There it is. We can just check that, click on there, and there's the template we've just created. So we'll just simply come down, simply click on Save Changes, and that will commit. So now we need to do is just come back and take a look at an individual product. So let's just click on this hoodie, for example, and we'll go in, and there's our custom page layout. Everything is set up the way we want, including the related products, our description, all the styling and everything that we've configured. So all those things are directly configured inside there. Now let's come back and take a look at this related product option, and if we can style that to make that fit in line with everything else we currently have. As you can see, the button, the text, and so on, they're picking up that kind of default styling because we haven't configured anything for that. Now to do that is really, really easy. If we scroll down, you can see we've got related and upsell products, the template for that. Now, we've already created a couple of templates that we've used that are kind of become global templates. So if we expand this, you can see we've got shop, archive, list, and grid. Well, this is a grid. So we're going to just choose the grid option. We'll simply come down and hit Save Changes. And then we refresh the page and take a look then at our related products. You can see that's now picked up the styling we set up for our grid layout. So our button is all in styling, our text, size, everything else is set up inside there. So that's how we can configure the related products without having to create multiple different templates over and over again. We can reutilize ones we've set up that have become sort of global templates. Once someone clicks Add to Cart, you don't want to simply spin them back off into the boring typical WooCommerce page, and JetWooBuilder gives us the tools you need to build something far more unique. So we're now kind of on the home straight. We've built out most of the key components that we need. Like I say, there are still plenty of other options there if you want to get even deeper into what you can do. But as the basics, just to show you, we've covered those areas. So next up, we've got two more things we need to look at: the cart page and the checkout page. So this is currently the cart page that we have, which as you can see is pulling in those default styles. We can rectify that really easily. I've headed back over to my JetWooBuilder templates, and we're going to add a new template in. We're going to choose cart for this option,
and we're going to give this a name. So we're just going to call this default cart. Create our template, and then we can just pull in the various different components we want for the cart. So if we just start searching for cart, for example, you'll see we have a range of different options. Things like your cart cross-sells, cart empty message, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to do this section quite quickly, but if you want to see this in a lot more detail, this and the checkout page, I've created a fully dedicated tutorial just to those two key pages using JetWooBuilder. So I would highly recommend checking that out. I'll put a link in the description below so you can take a look at that if you want to learn more about the intricacies of what you can do with this particular feature. Okay, so for our cart, we have two different templates we need to create. We need to create the cart template that has content in it, and we need to create a separate template for an empty cart. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we'll say that empty cart. So we've got a widget called cart empty message. We'll drag and drop that into our design, and you can see there's our empty message, and now we could go ahead and style all of that. So we can change the typography and make sure that everything is in keeping with the style of our entire site. The message color, for example, the icon color, and so on. So I'll just quickly change those to the relevant colors, and you can see we've got what looks like a pretty typical kind of message to tell us there's nothing in there. But like I say, you can style all of this. Even drop in your own custom message if you want to. We'll keep this really simple though, and we'll just save that as the default cart, and we'll just close that down. We'll come back out of this and we'll create another template. So again, Crocoblock, and from there we're going to choose the Woo Page Builder, add a new template. I'm going to call this default cart with items. And again, if we want to, we can change this to the cart option, and we'll say create our template. So this is the second of our two templates. I'm going to do a search for cart one more time, and this time we can say, right, what do we want to put inside there? Well, we can drop the cart table in there, and you can see that will put the table showing the items that we have in our basket, and we can remove anything we don't want on here. So we may say you don't want to put the product title, you don't want the thumbnail, whatever you want. And you can come in, you can see we can remove those, we can change them, we can rename them, we can set the width on there, all those kinds of things to customize this to get exactly what we want. Pretty cool. And once we've done that and set everything up inside there, we've got action controls, and you can see we can update our cart, we can change that if we want to, apply coupon codes, and so on. Under styling, again, we've got all those options there, so we can configure this to make it look exactly the way we want. So we can take table heading, for example, we'll change the color on that to be our primary color. We'll change the typography to be our primary typography. And you can see we just now start to pick up all the relevant styling. Obviously, you take your time, go through all of this, configure this to be exactly what you want. Let's come back out of this, and we can go back to our cart. And we can say, well, we might want to put something like an upsell on here, or cart cross-sell, for example. Well, we can drag and drop that underneath, and we can just let that go inside there. Now, obviously, there's nothing showing up in it at the moment, but we can configure this, and then obviously, depending upon what upsells or cross-sells you may have listed next to a product, they'll be listed inside here as well. For now, though, we'll just take that out. It just goes to show what you can actually do. Okay. So we've got our apply cart and up cart and all that kind of thing. We obviously need to have a couple of other things inside here. We need to have the option to return to your shop. So we can just add in an extra field inside here. So we'll just add another section in, and we'll set this like so. And we'll just come back to our widgets, to our cart, and we'll say we want to put in cart return to shop over that side. And we'll just customize that a little bit. So typography, again, we're going to set our primary, we set our color to be white, for example, and then we can set our background colors and so on inside this. So we'll show our background color, use our global colors. So you can see, you can go through and set this up however you want. I'm not going to take too much time on this. I just want to demonstrate what you need to do. Hit publish on there, and that's our cart, or our two carts configured. We can now exit to the dashboard. We can go back into WooCommerce, back into our settings, back into the JetWooBuilder settings, and then we can enable our custom cart. So say enable that. Our cart template, we'll just choose that, default cart with items, and our empty template is going to be default cart. Save that. Come back out of this. We'll refresh this page now, and you can see there's our more customized layout. Now, obviously, there's still some bits and pieces you need to put in there to get this fully featured, and you can add extra things in if you want to. It's entirely up to you how you want to go ahead with it, but you can see how easy it is to be able to create something more customized.
You've got your buyer to the final stage, the checkout page, but obviously we don't want to give them a substandard experience at the final hurdle. Don't worry though, I've got you covered with this final step. You can easily take the tools that JetWooBuilder offers to build and style this section to make sure it is in keeping with the rest of your site, and that's exactly what we'll do next.
So once again, we're back into the JetWooBuilder template section. We're choosing checkout, and we've got, again, two parts we need to do this. We need to do checkout top. We'll create that template. Okay, so let's go ahead now and create the first template that we need. So we're going to scroll down until we get to the JetWooBuilder. Now, there's a couple of things that we need to insert into this top section. It's the coupon form and the login form, and that's all we need to place inside here. So we're going to create a simple 2-column row. We're going to set everything inside there, and we're just going to come back to our widgets, and we're going to just grab those widgets from there. So you can say we want to grab the coupon code, drop that inside there. You can configure anything you want in here. For now, I'm going to leave that as is, but obviously you'd spend time configuring that to get exactly what you want to be in line with your overall design. And then we're going to grab the login form and drop that onto the right-hand side. That's it. We're going to publish that. And once that's done, we're going to create another new template. So the procedure is exactly the same. Choosing checkout, we're naming this one checkout bottom, and we're going to say create our template. Once Elementor is loaded, we can then just drop in the widgets that we actually need. So again, let's come down to the checkout section, the JetWooBuilder, and now we can put in the various different things that we want. So now we can take the various widgets and build out our checkout page. So let's just add in a simple 2-column layout. We're going to give this a little bit of space at the top, so we're going to go 50 pixels top and bottom. And now we can just put in the widgets that we want. So the first thing we want to probably do inside there is drop in the billing form. So we'll drag and drop that into there. And you see that just pulls in the billing details. We can style this whatever we want. So typography, we're going to do the same as usual. Set that to either our primary, our secondary, text, or accent, whatever you want to set it to. We'll set that to primary. Control everything we want on there as well. So next up, let's just add our billing details in. So again, we can come back out the widgets, come back in, grab our shipping, drop that inside there. Again, we have full control over the title, the styling, all those kinds of things are totally available to us inside here. Next up, we can come in and add any other features we want in, because obviously we need to have some more options than this. So we can drag another section underneath, and we'll do a 2-column section again. Back to our widgets, and we've got things like checkout additional form, checkout coupon form. You've got your checkout order review, checkout payment, and so on. So let's say we'll drop in an order review on the left-hand side, and you can see that will give us an overview of what's in our basket, totals, so on and so forth, all fully stylable. And then finally, we'll just drop in the option for checkout payment and drop that onto the right-hand side. So there we go. So currently there's no payment method set up on this test site, but you can see that we've got everything configured. So we can select this, come over to our button, for example, and we can set up all the styling on there. So we'll just say we want to set that as primary. We'll set the color to be, we'll set that to be white. And then we'll set the background color for the button. So we'll just choose that. So set our background color, we'll set that to our primary color, and we can do things like we can change the border radius, set that to 0. So we can configure this to look exactly the same as everything else on our site. Once we're done, we hit publish. And as we've done many times before, we head back over to our dashboard, back into WooCommerce and settings, back over to the JetWooBuilder, scroll down until we find our checkout section, enable our custom checkout. Our checkout template is going to be checkout bottom, and our top section is going to be checkout top. So we'll save changes on there, and we've basically created now our custom checkout. So we've got our shop, is our checkout, come into there. You can see there's all the relevant details. Now this looks particularly ugly because I've done nothing to set things up the way that we needed to. But hopefully what you can see is it's very, very easy to go through the process of setting it up, and then you just configure everything, stylings, colors, all those kinds of good things. So we've now created all of the key components to build a typical shop. Yes, there are extra templates you can create, and if you want to get more creative, please go in and test those out, set things up, configure everything the way you want. You should now have the key skills you need to be able to do that.
Now, while it's beyond the scope of what I wanted to cover in this guide, I simply can't leave out how easy it is to add some pretty comprehensive filtering options with JetSmartFilters. In this very brief section, I'll just quickly demonstrate how to easily create a filter and insert that into your template and start providing visitors an intuitive and comprehensive way of filtering your online store. But if you want to learn more about JetSmartFilters, you can check out this video on screen now, and I'll also link it in the description below.
So let's create our first smart filter. Going to add a new smart filter, and we're just going to call this categories. Then we can drop in a label, so we'll just call this product category, and we'll just copy that to the next section. Filter type, we're going to change this now. We're going to say we want checkboxes for this example. Data source, we're going to set to taxonomies, and then we're going to change that to categories, or product categories, I should say. Choose product categories, and then you can set up any other parameters you want. For example, the relational operator, do you want this to be a union or intersection? So it kind of allows you to stack or just have unique filters, empty terms, so on and so forth. Set those to whatever you want, and if you want to include or exclude specific categories, you can do that as well. That's all we need to do for this filter. And this isn't a tutorial about how to use JetSmartFilters, just to show you can use it as a complementary tool to JetWooBuilder. So with that in place, we'll publish that filter, and then we'll just head back over to one of our templates. So again, into Crocoblock, into our Woo Page Builder, and we're going to come in and take a look at our shop archive. So this is our default shop archive. So we are looking for the default shop template. We'll edit that with Elementor. Once that's opened up, we'll just drop in our filter. So we're going to just scroll down to find our filters. Checkbox filter was the kind we just set up, so we'll drag and drop that above all the other filters that are included. We'll start doing a search for that, and there's our categories filter. Now we're going to choose what type of filter is this for. So we're going to select the option that says WooCommerce Archive by JetWooBuilder. You have to select that one to make sure this works correctly. Once we've done that, you can set any other parameters you want. I'm going to leave it as it is and just hit update. And once that's done, we're going to hop over to our test site and take a look at that on the page. So here's our shop page. There's our 4 filters for the different sections. And for example, if we click on hoodies, you'll see that now will filter it out and show us only the hoodies. We can deselect and choose something like accessories. And now we can see there's the accessories. But we can, because we set this up inside the filter, we can choose to say we want accessories and hoodies. So now we've got 2 filters being applied to this particular section. So it's easy, and you can build up as many of these different filters that you want to create a really comprehensive set of filters to filter all of the data throughout your WooCommerce website.
Now we've covered a heck of a lot of ground here today, and I hope it's given you the confidence to give JetWooBuilder a go for yourself. If you want to learn how to get the most out of JetWooBuilder though, check out this playlist next. It's full of great information. If you found this video useful, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button, smash the subscribe button, and gently caress the bell icon. However, if you didn't find it useful, well, you can feel free to hit that thumbs down button twice, as that works pretty well too. As always, all of the applicable links are in the description below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.